Hello, everyone, and welcome. So, this is a very special Facebook Live on the Friday Facebook Live series in the Joyful Business Club, and one that I was particularly looking forward to because I've had the honour through a good friend of knowing Marg Lange and finding out a little bit about what she does. And when I first met her, she was in the middle of living in Melbourne during COVID, which, it wasn't the best time for anyone last year. I think it was a very harsh year, but it was especially harsh for those in Melbourne. So when Marg talks about relaunching and rebranding and the power of connecting, and even when she talks about pivoting, it comes from a very genuine and authentic place of having had to do it herself. Is that a true description, Marg?
Absolutely. Having to relaunch a business when things beyond your control goes wrong, that's when you find that your network is what saves you. Saves you when things go wrong, and saves you or gives you the opportunity to relaunch, save those connections.
And so, Marg, I know you describe yourself a change agent, but you wear many hats, don't you?
I do. Like, I'm a targeted lead generator, first and foremost, and that's comes through my ability to connect as a connector. I'm also a business launch specialist, and that is, they're basically intertwined in some ways, because as I said, I use the skills of a connector to be able to relaunch businesses that are affected by COVID-19, or someone's got a business idea and they've got no idea if it's going to work. Well, then I can easily find the target market to test its viability.
Wow, that's quite a skill because a lot of people have actually had to completely change their business models. And some people are over hearing about how to pivot, aren't they? It's just, they didn't want to pivot in the first place.
No, and that's the great thing about change. It makes us adapt. And the thing is about being adapt or having to adapt. Unfortunately, what comes with that is resistance. But the thing is that change is constant, change is safe, and unless you can adapt quickly, because at the moment, what we know about COVID-19, it's not over in 19, 20 or 21 or maybe 2022. And given the market will be doing this, right? All it takes is one lockdown, right? Or it takes someone to say, I'm not getting the vaccine, and whack, something happens, and then we may have to change again. So it like it or not, we have to learn to become more and more adaptable.
Yeah, that's a good point, isn't it? Because, I mean, you were obviously in Melbourne. You saw how quickly it happened, and it happened quickly, didn't it? And we saw it in Sydney over Christmas. It can happen really quickly.
It can, and then what it does, it spins people into a spin. And I think we've seen enough on Facebook with the commentary and the narrative that's going on, that we can see how it's starting to have this permanent effect, whether it's a conspiracy theory group that you belong to going down that rabbit hole.
None for me, but...
or the anti-vaxxer, or whatever it is, there is, what I'm seeing and observing is that people are getting hooked up into this fear-mongering that's going out. They're hooked into the uncertainty. They're hooked into the lack of trust. And what they're not doing is they're not connecting back into the present and actually looking around and saying, well, the sky hasn't actually fallen in. And realistically, if I spend my time being anxious and fearful, how in the hell is that going to help me survive the rest of 2021?
They're all very good insights. And so I wanted to ask, Marg, I'm curious, you talking about going back to basics. So why do you think that business owners need to go back to basics if they're going to survive the remainder of 2021? I mean, shouldn't they be going and trying lots of new complex things rather than going back to basics?
Well, I think that one thing that COVID-19 has taught us is that we have this need to connection. Like, I think what the way the world is evolving is that we are going to have to become more connecting, more collaborative, and more community-minded. you may have seen during the pandemic that people were starting in their neighbourhoods to actually look out for, neighbours. That never happened once again. That was the good old days where, we knew what was going on 3 houses down the road or across, around the corner. We sort of knew, sort of like a little bit of like a smaller version, whether you were in a big city or a country town. We knew what was going on and we were out there actively helping each other. But the thing is now that most of what you're going to hear is that COVID-19 pushed us all online, and that we had to go online, and that we should have been online, and we're going to connect that way. But that comes with a lot of problems. For example, the whole online world is now more crowded than ever, and which means that it's getting harder to actually stand out. Okay, and the thing is with that is then you have to try and be a little bit more shocking or a little bit more whatever it is to stand out. Now, the problem with that is if you were to think of the internet just like a massive crowded marketplace, how on earth are you going to say, hey, pick me, I've got the solution for you, when you have no idea about how they're thinking and feeling? I mean, our values and our priorities have changed, right? And depending on what state you're in, like for us down in Melbourne, you'd be surprised how risk averse we've become. Like my daughter, she's 22. The other day, she just rocked me when she said to me, Mum, I don't want to go interstate because I've got a bar job and I can't afford to lose it. Now, I thought she'd be the first one to be less risk averse. It's only Easter. Why don't we take time out? No. And the thing is that the people in Queensland or people in Western Australia have had a completely different COVID experience. So if you are going online and you're marketing to a complete market that's out there Australia-wide, your messaging must be aligned according to how that they're thinking and feeling. Like we know that there's a grief cycle that happened with COVID-19. In the first lockdown in Melbourne, we all went into disbelief. Okay, then we went into anger. And then we had this sadness, depression stage. Then we went into optimism. Then Dan let us out for a few weeks. So it was like, okay, this is great. And then whack, he locked us down for a long time. And that entrenched behaviour really made us behave differently. Our priorities have changed. And the thing is that we've only got one part of pot of gold, which is called discretionary income. So the way that you are now marketing to your target market, if they're in Queensland, must be different to Melbourne. And we know that people will buy from people they know, like, and trust. So how on earth are you going to be online out there, spruiking your wares, no idea of what people have been through, and say, buy my stuff?
Yeah.
What we have to do is we have to actually go back to the basics and find out, start connecting, having really good conversations, getting to understand how to become a good conversationalist rather than, talking about yourself. We all love talking about ourselves, Serena. That's what we love it. But the thing is that we've got to learn to take the focus off us and put the focus on them. And so this is where I'm saying, going back to basics, we know that one of the enduring behaviours is that there's a lot of stuff about shopping local. So why would you be out there trying to capture someone's attention that's, I don't know, in cyberspace, when your next customer could be your next door neighbour, that might be around the corner. It might be in your little shopping centre. So these are the opportunities that really do exist if you understand how the fact that if we need to be more connecting and we actually listen to these conversations, these sorts of things here. Like some people go, oh, I need to go into Clubhouse because that's going to be my next saving grace. I don't get it. You're just listening to someone's conversation. How's that getting you business? It's rather than listening, it's more about learning how to have a good conversation and being an active listener. And these are the things that we used to do well. I mean, okay, I've got to give you this great example. The other day, I have a lot of time on LinkedIn where I do, like, when I reach out, and this guy came home to his wife and said that the way that I wrote my message stood out. So tick for me, I do that well. So he said to her, you should go have a coffee with Marg. So the first thing she said is, unless I know that you're going to, that we're the right fit, I don't want to have a coffee with you. And I said, I'd just like to have a coffee with you because being the right fit comes out of having the coffee. So she was putting a barrier up first and foremost. And then if that wasn't enough, we get there and she said she's got this $8 million business, all came to an end. She was in the events industry and she wanted to know what to do. And I said, well, have you picked up the phone and spoken to your suppliers? Because I'm sure if you wanted to be a business coach, because she now wants to get our events to be a business coach, well, the opportunity is there to ring your suppliers, ring your customers, find out how they are, and then from there you can coach them. It's pretty simple. And she goes, but what would I say? I go, how are you?
And what would you listen to? Probably more to the point rather than what you'd say.
Yeah, correct. And what questions would you ask? And then would you ask the next question? Would you ask the next question? And that really just taught me a lot. Like she's a well-educated woman. She had an $8 million business. Don't get me wrong. But the fact is we've lost the art of how to pick up the phone and ask how someone else is. And then taking it to a place where you can position yourself after you found the opportunity because you've asked the right questions, you've been doing a lot of listening, to be the right connecting, collaborative solution, not the sales snake oily one that we all sort of go, oh my God, if they don't say yes to this sale, I'm stuffed.
And I know we were talking about sales the other day because, I guess too, because I've been a public servant for so long where you can't be salesy. Like anything salesy just switches people off and it's not appropriate as well. And so you become very conditioned to not selling. And it feels quite unnatural really to be selling because, how do you do that in an authentic way? Rather than a look at me, you need, aggressive way.
Yeah. Look, as I said, and that's what I love about the connection strategy or the people strategy, because we all have to become more people-centric. So knowing that we have to have a people strategy as much as we have an online strategy or business plan or whatever. The great thing about a people strategy is that once you have won over the trust barrier that they're not going to be sold to, and then you can show up not looking needy or unattached to the sale, everybody just tends to relax a bit because now it's a conversation about what's going on for them and how you can be helpful. And that might then be helpful by connecting them to the right people because it might be something that, I'll give you an example. Let's say I'm wanting to sell you, I'm wanting to call you and you mention that your fridge is not working, right? And your day is going to SHIT, right? And everything's falling apart. So I take my eye off, but I wanted to talk to you about the sale or whatever it is I want you to buy from me, right? And what I do is I start talking to you about the fridge and what else is going on in your life. And I actually take action by sending you I send you someone your way to fix the fridge because you don't know if someone who is likely to turn up right now. And I make that happen. What do you think, Serena? What instant feeling are you going to have about me?
Well, I'm going to think you're reliable. I'm going to think you're well connected, and I'm going to think you're trustworthy. That you're someone I'm going to go to next time I have a problem.
Correct. And the thing is that this is the way the dating game is played, or they say what they say about building the relationship, building the connection. The fact that I took action means I'm credible, which means you can rely on me, as you said. So when someone's thinking of, do I choose this person or that person, they're going to come back to the person who goes, do you know what? That Marg Lange, not only did she do this for me, but she also sent me the refrigerator guy, she sent me this, she sent me that. And then next thing what happens is people start to then say, you should contact Marg. Like if you're a travel agent, how many travel agents do that? No, they just take your booking. They just show up and take your booking. Okay. But if they were someone who actually did other things outside booking your travel, then these people then start to look at them differently. And this is the thing that we need to do. And that's the whole showing up differently strategy, is being more helpful in ways that are outside what it is you do. Now, let's say you say to me, we're still having this conversation about the fridge, and I want to talk to you about relaunching your business. So then I say to you something along the lines of, so how things are, other than the fridge, how things have been for your business during COVID-19, like last year in 2020, things picked up. And you don't even know that I'm going down this track in the conversation, you see. So I can do that online in a Facebook group. I can do exactly the same thing, and I can do it on the phone. I can do it face to face. And ultimately what happens is that as that questioning and how I take that conversation to where I wanted to take it, without you even knowing I'm doing that, and I'm not manipulating the situation, I'm being helpful because I'm listening. I'm actually being helpful. I'm just actually solving your problem, lots of them. And so even if I don't get the sale by the, hey, you know what, at the end of the conversation, I might say, do you know what? I know someone that could really help her. How about I organize a meeting? So I actually show up in the meeting. I take the time to do that. I actually take the action to bring this along. And so what would happen is then I would workshop with you some ideas. You'd go, actually, Mark, I'd really like to work with you. Oh, no worries. That's how easy it can be.
Wow, I think that's really inspiring. And I wanted to feed in at this point that we've had a number of comments. So Guy Hargraves has said it's about understanding the problem and providing a solution. And he's also said, yes, strive to be a connector rather than simply a connection.
Oh, yes, love it. Absolutely. How many connections do we have on LinkedIn that we never talk to? I mean, it's just a list.
Yeah.
Up on how many people are following us. Like, freebie. I mean, how egoic is that? Oh my God, I've got to post something. I haven't got enough engagement. Well, try being relevant. Try being aligned. Try tagging people. If you go to my Facebook page, I'm always tagging people. People don't even think that. People think, oh my God, I got 6 likes for that. That's not good enough. What will I do next? Well, why did you like what I just said? Actually, the people who like, actually go drop down box and go, hey, such and such. So what was it that you liked about, and get the conversation going. That's pretty much how it is.
Yeah, and I hear you regarding empty connections. I remember very early on in my early days of being on Facebook, a former high school friend who'd been a very good friend connected with me, and she's since divorced and remarried. She's got a new name. And I was really excited because I really wanted to chat to her, but she just virtually connected with me and that was it. Like we've never had since then, you know, she's never sent me a Facebook message. We've never had anything. I've tried to contact her a few times and I'm like, really? Like, why did you connect with me if you didn't want to connect? Because I want to hear about, you know, how you found your new husband, where you've gone to, what's happened in your life, and no, nothing.
Yeah, I know. Look, sometimes it can be like hit and miss. Sometimes it can be, it depends on also how you start, like in that very first opening connection, and how you're showing up. Like I have a course on this stuff. I teach you stuff because like step 1 is how are you showing up? You'd be surprised. I had a guy I went out with once, all right? He used to tell me that, you'd be surprised what people say about you, blah, 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 blah. I said, really? So what I did, I actually went and did my own survey. I was surprised. Did you know that people think that I dominate conversations? I had no idea. So I changed that because we all assume that we know what people think of us, but we don't. And we don't have any idea about what people think about our business, like our branding. No, we've got no idea. So we don't even bother to ask.
And it's pretty confronting to ask people, can you give me a survey on what you actually think of me?
It is confronting, but it's also quite a great, what's the word? Like for for me, it's sort of a really good insight to going, right, if I'm going to go through 2021, I can't go through dominating conversation, right? Because that's not serving me. But and if you're looking at your brand, like some people might go, like you really need to be doing things like, so would you buy from me? And don't ask your friends, like for heaven's sake, they're not going to tell you the truth. But you need to find, do the market research and find out whether someone would buy from you, just if they landed on your website or your Facebook page, or what do you think, how you think I'm doing it, and what could you do to what would you suggest that I do? Now, the thing is with that, you need to not just ask one, you need to have a focus group of at least a minimum of 30, all right? And if you're wanting a certain market, the other thing is that depending on what market age group that you're going for, it's probably a good idea to ask them, do they align? Like when they do that, like if it's an over 50s and you're a gym, say, well, I have some great head people on there on the homepage for starters. And some people don't even think to have this sort of connection that they've got to feel like that their brand is talking to that person in a way that it aligns with what they're going through now. So you have to go and do that whole market research to be able to know exactly what that is. So that when you are showing up in the first instance, you only get, Alan Stevens would tell you this, you only get first go at a first impression. He was on here last night. Love that guy. Last week, sorry, he was on last week. Love that guy on how to read people. But the thing is also it's about what comes out your mouth as much as be able to read their face and the tonality of that. And when you're online, your tonality gets lost. I mean, how many times have you sent a text message and it comes back and you go, why did they say that? I didn't think they would respond that way.
Yeah, I know you thought it was just humorous or, lighthearted, but it's interpreted in a whole different way.
Yeah, so step one is all about how you're showing up. You're showing up as a fake, or you're showing up as authentic, and are you showing up relevant? Are you showing up aligned? And number two is where you're showing up, because, some people think, oh, I've got to, what am I going to do to try and get this business to keep going down, the rest of 2021? Well, you don't have to be on Facebook, guys. You can actually be out. I mean, if I can sell the Grand Prix to a butcher whilst I'm ordering my meat, think about that. If you're having conversations with your dry cleaner, you're having conversations with someone in a cafe, these are the people that that they actually buy stuff, believe it or not. Don't ever rule out the conversations you're having. I always say to people, if you want to go after the over 50 market, let's say that's the market you want to go over, why don't you join one of their walking groups? And we all got to get exercise anyway. Right, so if that's your target market, that would be where I would be showing up. I'd be I'd be looking at meetups. I wouldn't be looking at necessarily just Facebook or Insta, right? Because seriously, all those Facebook groups and Insta groups can't pitch. Like they have these rules about no selling. So you have to be really, really good at being able to take the conversation through asking strategic questions through Messenger, to a phone call, to a Zoom or a coffee, and then know how to handle that conversation. So once you can do that one-on-one, then you don't need money. You don't need a Facebook ad campaign. It costs nothing. It's so cool.
But it does require you to be actively listening, doesn't it? And it does require you to be authentic.
Yeah, absolutely. So and to be able to build rapport is just step two in the way I teach, is learning how to listen with empathy and be able to mirror and be able to validate. And this is why my course is such a good add-on to Alan's, because you could be reading someone's face, but you're also then being able to know what's the next question I should be asking, and you can sense how the conversation's going. Okay. So it's about how to build rapport, and that rapport building is where the trust. Like people buy from those they know, like, and trust. So it's a pretty good idea to have people out there liking you and knowing you, because then they're going more likely to buy from you, or they're going to send someone your way because they like you so much they want to help you. I mean, I'll give you an example. I've got a craft cartel beer account at the moment, and when somebody does an action for me, I send them a carton of beer, and they go, "Oh my God!" And I don't tell them it's coming in the mail. but that person is then more motivated to help me because I just did something that's nice. I don't do it specific. I don't have a lot of money, so I'm very strategic on who I do it, when I send that. But I am grateful for it. And then I tell the world. I mean, if you go on my Facebook page, I'm always highlighting whom I'm grateful for. And people love that. And this is where they come, they go, I like Marg because she's authentic.
I'm laughing a little bit here too, because the Joyful Business Club is really all about that. I mean, this is pretty much what I'm doing right now. This is what I do with the Facebook Lives. Sometimes I'll get onto the Facebook Lives and I'll talk about things myself, but usually it's highlighting other people who I know are amazing and highlighting what they do. Now, before we come to the end of this session, because believe it or not, we're almost at half an hour, I want to acknowledge that Alison Williams has some comments. She said, and understanding where the client is coming from emotionally so the solution is truly helpful. And she's also said, love it, Marg. And actually there's a bit here, so I'll just see more. The ideal approach is a combination of both male and female energy. Direction, problem solving is the male energy. We need to solve their problem. However, we need connection, female energy to really bridge the gap, the know, like, trust factor.
And knowing that men, like I know, is there any men on here today, Serena?
There has been. We've had Guy Hargraves who is on
here. So maybe if Guy's lost, like maybe if Guy left, right, it might be because I was just talking too much. Men can only take chunks. So when you're talking to a male, remember that they get lost in it unless they go, oh, what she's talking about, she's going into story. I just want a solution. So this is
No, this really resonates with me, and sorry I'm interrupting a bit, but I use a lot of storytelling in what I do, and particularly personal stories, because with women I hate telling them what they should do. If I told another woman how she should organise her finances, it's a very confronting thing. So instead I will share, I've tried this approach personally, this work that doesn't work from a place of vulnerability, and authenticity. This isn't because I think I'm the best with my finances ever. It's just that's how I communicate as a narrative way. Anyway, so I was speaking at an event in Sydney a year and a bit ago. I was on a panel, and this young 20-something-year-old guy who I know quite well decided to give me some constructive feedback to say that he and others didn't understand why I was just talking about myself, and that they liked the other male panelists because he'd given strategies and he'd given facts and he'd given figures. Anyway, I thought a little bit about this, and I thought, yeah, it's my target market isn't men in their 20s. So, I take that and I learn from that. And if I am communicating to that age group, or if I know I'm communicating to a male audience, I structure things quite differently.
Yeah, exactly. So, I have to say, when you're the female, we want to be heard. We want your undivided attention. I always say this to a male: like if you want to win over a male, make sure that you are telling him how much you appreciate him, because they need a lot of praise, more so, and respect, and do that, and actually demonstrate that. And with the women, we just want your undivided attention, and we don't want you to solve anything. So this is the other thing too. So this also, how on earth, if you're on Facebook, you don't know if you're, depending on whether you're male or female, both, this is where it all gets a bit tricky. And that's why, yes, you need an online strategy. Yes, you need to show up online, because people, that's where they're going to go and check you out and see if you're credible. But I'm saying have an offline people strategy as much as you do an online one for the rest of 2021 and beyond, because that's, once JobKeeper's done, having a coffee, getting that next referral, it's going to cost you $4.50 an hour, as opposed to how much you would spend on SEO or Facebook advertising, which is, to me, is like going down a casino. I might as well just roll the dice. Because did you know that Facebook now say you should be having a 3-minute video instead of a 1-minute video?
No, I didn't know that. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, so now all the 1-minute videos I did last year aren't going to work. And that's what the problem is. They keep changing it. And they keep changing. And then, and then you sit there and you just go, why am I spending all this time doing all this stuff? and nothing's coming in the door, when I could be having a really good conversation and learning how to connect, identifying the opportunity, and then positioning yourself as the as the most likely choice. And then they go, fine. And then they say, oh, I can't afford you. You go, that's all right, because I know somebody. Would you like me to connect you with them? And they would check out your finances. And they go, oh, that's helpful. There's always a way to get a sale.
I have learned so much. And I wanted to acknowledge too that our male participant on the group, I don't know whether it was more than one, but Guy Hargrave said, yes, he is still here. So he didn't lose you through talking and sharing a lot. So thank you so much, Marg, for your time. I know there's some really, really, really useful tips about how to be a connector rather than just making a connection. And I know you will do this, but make sure that you leave your contact details in this group and including your course and other offerings so people know how to find you. And I know you do some great work with helping businesses launch and relaunch, and some great work too with events and some things that you've done last year that have been truly amazing. So thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Serena. So do I just, like, you want me to do that in that now, put my details in the chat?
I will send you the chat link.
Okay. As you can see, I'm not a techno girl. I'd rather be out giving you my business card.
You are seeing me via Zoom, but I've been monitoring the chat on Facebook as we've been speaking. So I'll send you that link now.
Cool.
Thank you, lovely.
All righty. See you, everyone.
Bye.